Xiao Yan and I were the capital's most notorious ill-matched couple. At our most bitter, he laced my meals with poison while I hid needles in his pillow. Then border alerts came. He tossed me a divorce decree and marched to the frontier with his true love. 3 years later, Xiao Yan returned victorious, crowned regent prince. On the day of his homecoming, he bypassed the palace entirely and kicked down the gates of my princess's residence. Surveying my drafty chambers, he offered without resentment, "Apologize, and I'll take you as my concubine." He assumed I'd cling to him as before, haunting him for life, suppressing the metallic taste in my throat. I lifted my head to meet his gaze. "I refuse." Xiao Yan froze. How could the esteemed princess ever become someone's concubine? He knew I wouldn't agree. What he hadn't anticipated was the utter calm in my response. A cold wind swept through, and I could no longer hold back. Coughing twice, Xiao Yan instinctively moved to approach me. But a bright, innocent voice suddenly rang out behind him. "Yan Ji." His body stiffened slightly. He shot me an awkward glance before turning to catch the young girl who had rushed toward him. Bai Yunxiao curiously scanned my bedchamber and exclaimed in surprise, "How can there be nothing here? This isn't even as luxurious as the mansion I lived in at the frontier." Her face was filled with genuine puzzlement. Not a trace of mockery. Xiao Yan had shielded her well. Even now, she remained unaware of the nature of our relationship. I lowered my gaze, instinctively touching the cloak wrapped around me. Xiao Yan cleared his throat and said to me, "The weather has turned bitterly cold lately. You must take better care of yourself. At the very least ensuring the charcoal brazier stays well fed." Indeed, the window panes in my chambers are broken, letting in biting cold with every gust. The charcoal fire went out long ago. The only warmth I have is this cloak draped over me. When he returned victorious, my imperial brother feared my comfort might offend Xiao Yan. He cut off all provisions to my residence and had every movable possession carried away. But the capital is filled with Xiao Yan's spies. How could he not know? He merely wants me to beg for mercy. I turned my head away and said indifferently, "My affairs need not trouble the regent prince." The atmosphere froze. Xiao Yan opened his mouth, not wanting to hear him speak. I glanced at Bai Yunxiao, who stood awkwardly nearby, and interrupted. "Since it's Miss Bai's first visit, this palace must bestow a token of appreciation. When I was 9, foreign envoys presented tribute gifts, among which was a hollowed-out bracelet carved from red coral. Its craftsmanship was extraordinarily intricate, a one-of-a-kind piece in the world, which adorned my mother's wrist." I secretly sighed with Xiao Yan several times. Envious. For a long time afterward, his hands would mysteriously get injured. Until my birthday, when he presented a golden-laid jade openwork bracelet. He'd spent every penny he'd saved, cutting his hands countless times, failing over 10 times before finally carving it by hand. When Xiao Yan saw me take out the bracelet, he snapped his head up to look at me, his eyes filled with disbelief. He drew a deep breath, as if in agony, and after a long moment asked, "You really were willing to give it away?" Watching Bai Yunxiao happily slip the bracelet on, I replied indifferently, "It's just an old thing. What's there to be reluctant about?" Xiao Yan's grip on his sword tightened. He murmured good 3 times. Each utterance grew slower, each more heavy. Before leaving, he stood motionless at the doorway for a long while, growing impatient. I was about to urge him on. His voice rasped, "If you say you regret it, we can go back to how things were. Yun shouldn't suffer injustice. You can be my equal wife." After a moment's silence, I chuckled softly. "I do regret it." Xiao Yan froze, a smile just beginning to form on his face. I continued, enunciating each word. "Xiao Yan, I regret saving you all those years ago. When I was 5, playing outside the palace, I saw a group of beggars bullying a young beggar boy. The child was skin and bones, clutching a steamed bun to his chest. His face was beaten black and blue, yet he refused to let go. Countless feet trampled him. Through the gaps in the crowd, I saw his stubborn eyes. That was the first time I met Xiaoyan. I reached out my hand, and he became the guard of the princess most favored by the late emperor. On the day he donned the guard's uniform, he knelt before me, his voice unwavering, "My life belongs to the princess. From this day forward, I live only for her." He truly kept his word. From childhood to adolescence, he remained by my side. I had been frail and sickly since birth. Palace servants whispered behind my back that I wouldn't live long. He grew angrier than I, snatched a staff, and personally beat that servant to death. When I found my medicine bitter, he drank it with me. "Your servant shares half the bitterness with the princess, so she need not suffer." Until a palace banquet, where he rose to fame in a single battle. I was 15 then, having perfectly inherited my mother's beauty. Hailed as the capital's most exquisite maiden, the southern barbarian prince, who had come to pay tribute, drank several cups of wine. His gaze, heavy with intoxication, fixed upon me as he publicly asked for my hand in marriage. The hall fell suddenly silent. My father, the emperor, who cherished me most, stared at the southern barbarian prince for a long time, yet could not bring himself to refuse. At that time, the southern barbarians had become a threat, and both sides were carefully maintaining a delicate balance. One wrong word could ignite war. In the stillness, Xiaoyan stepped forward, challenging the prince to a duel. The prince stood towering and imposing, like a mountain, utterly dismissive of Xiaoyan. In the end, Xiaoyan barely won, nearly losing half his life in the process. I clung to him, weeping, asking why he had to do this. Ignoring the blood in his mouth, he replied, "I would rather die than see the princess forced to marry a barbarian." The southern prince, ashamed, withdrew. My father, the emperor, was overjoyed and immediately granted us marriage. From that day, Xiaoyan's star rose rapidly. Not only did he become my betrothed, but the emperor also bestowed upon him the title of General of the Azure Dragon. Whenever he led his troops back to the city, noble ladies would reserve private boxes along the streets just to catch a glimpse of him. Once, pretending to be jealous, I asked if he had room in his heart for anyone else now that he was so successful. He smiled, ruffled my hair, and said, "If not for Ian, I'd have died among beggars long ago. How could I have this life now? To me, you are my entire world. Having Ian alone is enough for this lifetime." To cheer me up, he set aside official duties to fetch osmanthus cakes from the northern city's restaurant. Those cakes were highly sought after, with daily limited quantities, and the queue outside was always long. As a princess, I always had privileges. The restaurant knew my fondness and would set aside a portion just for me. Yet when Xiaoyan returned, his hands were empty. He explained he'd encountered a pitiful little girl. The child wept, saying her mother was gravely ill and might not survive the night. Osmanthus cakes were her mother's favorite, and she didn't want her to pass with regrets, but she'd arrived too late. The osmanthus cakes were long sold out, leaving only the one the restaurant had specially saved for me. Xiaoyan held me close. "Our Ain has the kindest heart. Had she seen that girl, by Yun Xiao, she wouldn't have let her leave empty-handed. He'd made the decision for me without asking. I should have been upset. But the matter was so trivial, so insignificant, that I scarcely gave it a thought. So I let it go. It wasn't until Xiaoyan later flung the divorce papers before me that I realized the absurdity. He had gone to fetch my favorite osmanthus cake to please me. Yet in doing so, he had placed another figure in his heart. He even risked turning against me. At first, I paid no mind to an orphaned girl. The name Bai Yunxiao left no trace in my mind, so I never imagined I'd see her in Xiaoyan's military camp. The southern barbarians were stirring, and war could erupt at any moment. Xiaoyan practically lived in the camp, sometimes disappearing for 10 days or even half a month when things got busy. My heart ached for his exhausting drills, so I baked some pastries to send him. On the way, I overheard soldiers discussing a woman. That new medic is gorgeous. She bandages wounds so gently, didn't feel a thing when she treated mine. Wipe that drool off your face. She's the general's woman. Don't you want to live? The general? Only one man held that rank in this camp. A bad feeling washed over me. As I approached Xiaoyan's tent, voices drifted out. Brother Yan, you've been training the troops so hard lately. Your voice is hoarse. I specially made this soothing autumn pear soup for your throat. Try some. I yanked the curtain aside. A petite, slender girl stood before the table, her rough hands holding the soup bowl, a sweet smile still frozen on her face. I knocked the bowl from her hands, my face turning as cold as frost. Xiaoyan. Who is this? Xiaoyan strode to my side in 2 strides. I expected him to explain, to apologize, to say it was all a misunderstanding. But Xiaoyan, who had obeyed my every word for 10 years, snapped at me for the first time. What kind of shrewish woman are you? What if you scared Ayun? My mind went blank. By the time I snapped back to reality, a handprint had already landed on his cheek. Bai Yunxiao shrieked, stepping in front of Xiaoyan. Her eyes burned with hostility as she glared at me. Who are you? How dare you hit Brother Yan? I watched her coldly, noting how she trembled but refused to back down. This isn't your place to speak. Get out! Xiaoyan's face turned as cold as frost. Li Qingyin. Don't bully a little girl. Ayun was just concerned about me. She doesn't know anything. Does being a princess mean you can disrespect people? He made an excuse to send Bai Yunxiao away. When he turned back, he was utterly calm. Ayun lost both her parents and has no one to rely on. That's why I've been extra kind to her. I don't understand why you're angry. I just hadn't told you yet. Is this really worth your petty jealousy? Petty jealousy? Fury made my whole body tremble, tears spilling uncontrollably. I tried to speak, but seeing the terrifyingly unfamiliar look in Xiaoyan's eyes, my lips closed again. His gaze told me everything. He had fallen for Bai Yunxiao. I couldn't fathom how this happened. He'd known Bai Yunxiao for barely a month, yet he'd effortlessly erased over a decade of our bond. I refused to accept it, urging Father Emperor to punish him. But for the first time, the Emperor who'd always granted my every wish turned stern. He said, "What man doesn't have concubines? Xiaoyan has been sufficiently devoted to you. Stop this nonsense." Seeing the faint resignation in my father's eyes, I suddenly understood. Whether in power or prestige, Xiaoyan had risen too swiftly. Father had no choice but to rely on him, so much so that he turned a blind eye to the injustice done to his own daughter. All of Xiaoyan's attentions and kindness toward me had been forced. Now that power was in his grasp, he finally shed years of pretense. He no longer needed to please me. I had personally raised a wolf. Resentment and bitterness boiled into a torrent of hatred. I resolved to take revenge on Xiaoyan. I ordered my men to write a story about how I had saved him only to be betrayed by his change of heart. I would destroy his reputation. Once the story spread, the common folk erupted in heated debate. They lambasted Xiaoyan as an ungrateful wolf, and even the noble maidens who once admired him began to spit on him. Yet within a single day, the rumors shifted. So what if he had a few women by his side? What's the big fuss? The princess was being far too spoiled. If not for the general, she'd have been married off to the southern barbarians long ago. How dare she push her luck? Rumor has it she drank herself into madness from childhood potions. Poor general. Forced to marry a lunatic princess. I was so furious I smashed everything in the mansion. As the most esteemed princess. Not only was I blameless in this matter, but even if I were at fault, commoners wouldn't dare speak ill of me unless they wanted to die. That rumor spread like this now can only mean Xiao orchestrated it. I demanded to know why he did this. He replied with a casual air, "Your temper is too fierce. I merely taught you a lesson, to learn to yield." I broke down. What's so great about her? You treat me like this for some orphan girl. Xiao shook his head disapprovingly. Yun's background may not match yours, but she's ambitious and studious, clever and diligent. Though struck by the loss of both parents, she never gave up hope for life. You were born spoiled and don't understand the value of her character. But you shouldn't look down on her. Absurd. In his eyes, Bai Yunxiao was flawless. Even my royal lineage became a mere backdrop to her virtues. What was I then? I saved him, aided him, gave him my whole heart, only to be called spoiled. The last shards of illusion shattered ruthlessly. For the first time, I knew what it meant to feel my heart twist like a knife. Furious, I lunged at him, biting through his clothes until his shoulder bled. Xiao said nothing. As long as you don't disturb Yun, you can vent on me however you wish. A wave of helplessness washed over me. Wearily, I let go. Go ask my father the emperor to annul our betrothal. I'll grant you your wish, I said, my heart as cold as ashes. But Xiao refused. He stroked my face soothingly. Ayin, have you misunderstood something? I've stayed by your side for over a decade. After finally securing our betrothal, how could I possibly annul it and watch someone else become your prince consort? Now I hold power and status. Marry me, and you'll remain a princess of gold and jade, with everything in the world at your fingertips. What more could you possibly want? Without me, you would have perished long ago on the journey to the southern barbarians. Ayin, you should be content. No, I am not content. As a princess of noble birth, I would rather die than share a man with another woman. Xiao guarded me for 10 days. On the 11th day, seeing me much calmer, he left for the military camp with peace of mind. That very night, I hanged myself. Yet when one is powerless, they cannot even decide their own fate. Xiao knew me too well. He rushed back that night and saved me. But because Bai Yunxiao had caught a chill, he returned to the camp, leaving me abandoned in the palace. Father wept bitterly as we talked through the night. He confessed his illness was severe. The southern barbarians were lurking, and my elder brother proved useless. Should he pass, only Xiao could safeguard the empire. In other words, to father, Xiao now mattered far more than I did. Seeing the gray streaks in father's temples, I yielded. Without my obstruction, Xiao began lavishing attention on Bai Yunxiao without restraint. I once invited him to admire flowers and cruise the lake with me, but he'd always blush and insist that a true man shouldn't indulge in such pleasures like a lady of the inner chambers. Yet to let Bai Yunxiao enjoy the garden's splendor alone, he spent lavishly to charter a wealthy nobleman's luxurious estate. He even hosted a high-profile hunting expedition just to offer Bai Yunxiao a novel experience. He went so far as to poach the chef from my favorite osmanthus cake shop, making him Bai Yunxiao's personal cook. Yet when I once suggested bringing that chef to the princess's residence, he had looked at me with disapproval and argued, what would the common folk eat if we took the chef away? One cannot be so selfish. Turns out it wasn't selfishness, it was simply not loving enough. His favoritism toward Bai Yunxiao was plain for all to see. Some subordinates, desperate to curry favor, even took it upon themselves to send women to me, urging me to become the male lead's concubine. Needless to say, it was for him. When Xiao found out, he punished the subordinate with 30 military strokes. A Yun wouldn't become a concubine, that would be an insult to her. The subordinate asked. Then what of your beloved? You can't just let her waste away. Xiao Yan remained silent for a long time before saying. It's nothing. Just a few more years to wait. Wait for what? Naturally. To wait for me. Already frail with illness. To die. Once. Every birthday. He wished for my longevity. Now. For Bai Yunqiao's sake. He actually curses me to death. Even so. I still underestimated Xiao Yan's shamelessness. On our wedding night. He did not return home. I searched the entire city until I found him at a house on the outskirts. Bai Yunqiao, dressed in a crimson wedding gown, stood with him before a simple ancestral hall, paying homage to heaven and earth. Inside the hall stood 4 wooden tablets, his and Bai Yunqiao's parents. Bai Yunqiao beamed upon seeing me, rushing forward to greet me. Brother Yan is so low-key. He didn't invite any guests. She said. I never imagined the princess herself would come to offer congratulations. Staring at her radiant smile, I yearned to tear off the mask, spill everything, and curse Xiao Yan's shamelessness, curse her foolishness. But I couldn't. My maid, Qiu Yu, grew up alongside Xiao Yan and me. Xiao Yan even promised to escort her as a brother when she married someday. This very person, whom he treated like a sister, was merely trying to expose Xiao Yan's hypocrisy to Bai Yunqiao out of indignation for me. For that, Xiao Yan stabbed her head with a steel needle and gouged out her eyes. When he tossed Qiu Yu's lifeless body before me, he coldly declared, do not act out of line again. As Bai Yunqiao's attendants distributed wedding candies to my people, I cursed Xiao Yan, calling him a beast in human form, shameless, ungrateful, and treacherous. Xiao Yan listened silently, saying nothing. Only when I cursed Bai Yunqiao as foolish as a pig for failing to see his true colors did he speak. Don't curse Yun. Her parents' spirits in heaven would grieve if they heard. So in his heart, even the feelings of the dead mattered more than mine. In that moment, I wanted to kill him. For the next 2 years, we tortured each other. He laced my food with poison, just so Bai Yunqiao could celebrate her birthday without incident. I hid needles in his pillow, praying daily for his violent death. 2 years of marriage, devoid of love, filled only with boundless hatred, until the southern barbarian wars erupted again. Finally weary of me, he brought back a divorce decree before marching off to war. Xiao Yan made a trip to the palace, and my household's provisions were restored. Craftsmen repaired the doors and windows, and the charcoal fire in the hall was rekindled. The crimson glow of the flames danced across my face. But before I could feel its warmth, Xiao Yan returned. He rushed to me, disheveled and stunned. Ah, Yin. The emperor said you have only 3 months to live. This can't be true, right? Your illness was stable, wasn't it? I adjusted my cloak, not sparing him a glance. The imperial physician said my heart meridian was irreparably damaged from extreme emotional turmoil in my youth. Xiao Yan froze in place, struck as if by lightning. How could this be? How could it not? My fingers traced the hidden pattern beneath my cloak as I replied calmly. You haven't forgotten how deeply you hurt me back then, have you? Xiao Yan stumbled helplessly before me, eyes reddening. I never imagined this would happen. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry? Madness seized me. I snatched the teacup nearby and hurled it at him with all my strength. Do you think one sorry erases everything? I trusted you so completely. When I first brought him back to the palace, everyone around me said he looked like a wolf cub, doomed to never be tamed, and urged me to cast him out immediately. Even Father the Emperor came to me, saying if I wanted a guard, he could select one of outstanding character and learning from the noble families. Taking in a beggar as a guard was simply unthinkable. But I insisted firmly, I wanted Xiao Yan. to keep him by my side. I'd deliberately stumble, fall into water, wait for him to rescue me, then cling to him, wailing, "Xiao Yan, thank goodness you're here. I'd have drowned otherwise." After he saved me countless times, Father saw his genuine devotion and finally allowed him to stay. But the cost was my health deteriorating further, forcing me to swallow even more bitter medicine. He had never studied, looked down upon by other noble sons. So I personally taught him to read and write. After the emperor arranged our marriage, the other princesses mocked me. They boasted their betrothed were either the son of the grand tutor or the heir to a marquisate, while mine was a destitute beggar. But I never felt ashamed. His origins meant nothing to me, nor did his background. We grew up together. As long as his heart was true to me, nothing else mattered. Yet even that sincerity, he refused to give me. For a time, I believed it was all just a nightmare. When I awoke, he was still the gentle Xiao Yan who whispered, "Princess, please don't cry," after spending every day and night together for over a decade. How could a person change so completely overnight? When he was amusing by Yun Xiao, I lay awake night after night. No matter how much calming tea I drank, I began to doubt my own judgment, even questioning everything about our time together. Was his kindness to me all those years genuine? Or was it an act? When he saved me, was the urgency in his eyes real? When I fell ill, did he truly keep vigil by my bedside? Or was it merely a performance for the emperor? I couldn't tell anymore. Every memory began to warp and distort. I couldn't distinguish what was real from what he had fabricated. Perhaps they were right after all. Xiao Yan was nothing but a wolf cub that could never be tamed. I should never have saved him. What was even more despairing was that I didn't know what to do. Xiao Yan refuses to dissolve our betrothal. Yet I cannot bring myself to ignore him and Bai Yun Xiao. I am like a caged bird, desperately trying to fly free, only to discover my wings are broken. After the divorce, Xiao Yan took Bai Yun Xiao to the frontier. Yet it seems he never truly left the capital. Rumors about the two of them kept circulating in the city. They said the general and his lady plunged deep into peril, joining forces to defeat the enemy, a divine couple on the battlefield. They said the general was mortally wounded, and the lady personally brewed medicine and tested poisons to save his life. She was his true savior. By then, Father Emperor had passed away. My elder brother was weak and incompetent, and the court was entirely controlled by Xiao Yan's faction. My standing as the eldest princess had greatly diminished. Some bold children would deliberately come to my mansion's gate, composing nursery rhymes mocking me as a jinx. They said General Xiao only found success after leaving me. Even when the southern barbarian prince was slain by Xiao Yan on the battlefield, a mob of troublemakers dumped rotten cabbages at my gate, demanding why I hadn't died with the prince, after all. I had nearly become his wife. Every humiliation I endured stemmed from Xiao Yan. Now he thinks a flippant "I'm sorry" can erase the past? He's dreaming. After hearing this, Xiao Yan looked at me with reddened eyes and said, "This wasn't my intention. I never imagined those troublemakers would act this way. Rest assured, I'll have them all arrested and make them pay for your humiliation." That very day, he imprisoned every commoner who had ever humiliated me, not even sparing a 6-year-old child. He eagerly sought my approval, but I replied wearily, "Xiao Yan, you know better than anyone who truly tormented me." His hand clenched involuntarily, choking back tears. He vowed, "Rest assured, if you cannot live, I will die with you." He summoned renowned physicians to treat me, insisting they cure me. Yet every doctor who took my pulse shook their head without exception. He forced them to prescribe remedies, one formula after another, but each time, I vomited them up. The imperial physicians declared my body too frail, beyond mild tonics. I could tolerate no medicine, yet the tonics proved utterly useless. My body was like a sieve, leaking vitality away ceaselessly. Refusing to accept this, he sent messengers to seek out reclusive masters of medicine. He declared that after all these years entangled together, our fates were bound as one. I could not abandon him alone. As he spoke these words, his eyes were ringed with dark circles, and he pored over medical texts again and again. My body deteriorated rapidly, growing weaker by the day. These days, I couldn't even rise from bed unaided. Xiaoyan grew so anxious his hair turned noticeably grayer. In my memory, he'd always been so composed before me, never this utterly flustered. I chuckled softly. We've already done what we did back then. Seeing you like this now only makes me think you're being insincere. Xiaoyan's hand paused mid-page, accidentally tearing the corner of the book. He frantically smoothed it out before burying his head back in the book. Whether you believe it or not, you will always be the one I care about most. Xiaoyan's frequent visits to me eventually drew Bai Yunxiao's attention to my illness. Hesitating, she said, when I was young back home, the old man next door suffered from a heart ailment. He was cured by eating cow dung. If the princess would not disdain. Before she could finish, Xiaoyan cut her off sharply. How dare you? What is Ayan's status? How could she be compared to someone like you? Never speak of such vile things again, they defile Ayan's ears. I glanced at him in astonishment. This was the first time Xiaoyan had ever spoken harshly to Bai Yunxiao. How laughable. Back when I loved and hated him, he treated Bai Yunxiao like a precious treasure. Now that love and hate have faded, he turns on Bai Yunxiao for my sake. A born scoundrel. After scolding Bai Yunxiao once, he stopped pretending altogether and began staying the night here night after night. Sometimes when he came over drunk, his eyes red, he'd ask if I'd staged it all just to make him feel guilty. He even claimed that all the turmoil back then was because I was too arrogant. If I'd just humbled myself once, we could still be together. I couldn't be bothered to argue. I simply told him to leave. If he refused, I'd pour cold water on his bed. When he passed out drunk, I'd have people carry him out and dump him outside. But Xiaoyan's face was always thick. This time, when he came back, he didn't bring medicine. Instead, he brought osmanthus cakes and the bracelet I'd given Bai Yunxiao. He held these two things like precious treasures, presenting them to me and saying, Ayin, I regret it. Can we go back to how things were? I thought I must be too sick, hallucinating. But he urgently pulled my hand toward him, explaining that there had been reasons for what he did back then. When I served as your guard, following you daily, those noble brats mocked me behind my back. They called me a kept man, your male favorite, saying I owed everything to your favor. I thought it was because my status was too low that they looked down on me. But later, even after I became a general, they still said all my glory came from you. You were my sky, and I was destined to live only by your light. He gave a bitter laugh. Ayin, you're a princess. You're too high and mighty. I didn't know how to escape your shadow until I met Bai Yunxiao. Xiaoyan said Bai Yunxiao was docile and obedient, always looking up to him with admiration. He found in her the fulfillment he couldn't get from me, and he wanted to use her to make me jealous, to teach me to soften. Ayin, don't you understand? It's not that I don't love you, it's that I care too much. I just wanted to make you jealous, to teach you to be gentler, more obedient. Only then would you treat me like the sky. So what if you're a princess? You're my woman. A woman should obey her husband. I did this for our future. He gripped my hand tightly, his voice breaking. I was wrong. I shouldn't have pushed you so hard, made you hurt. I've regretted it for so long. Bai Yunxiao knows nothing of calligraphy or painting, no history or literature. We have nothing to talk about. That's when I realized you're my soulmate. We grew up together, Inseparable since childhood. Yin, please forgive me. We can go back. I suddenly burst out laughing. Xiao Yan, you say people mock you for living off others? I spoke slowly. Then whose life did they save? Who paved your first step to success? When your meager salary couldn't feed you? Who spent their money to support you? Xiao Yan froze. My expression turned icy instantly. They were right. You survived by living off others. I slammed the bracelet onto the floor, shattering it into pieces, a few mocking words from others. And you trample my sincerity to feed your vanity? Xiao Yan, you truly disgust me. I should have let those beggars beat you to death back then. I dismissed him without further courtesy. Xiao Yan tried to stay, but I coughed violently, fearing I'd harm myself with anger. He reluctantly left. Yin, rest well. I'll return tomorrow. When he arrived the next day and saw the scene in my courtyard, his expression darkened abruptly. The weather was unusually fine that day, and I felt slightly better. So I summoned a young performer from the music troupe to entertain me. The young performer had delicate features, appearing frail and delicate. Yet when he shed his clothes, taut, powerful muscles emerged. After the dance concluded, glistening beads of sweat slowly trickled down the contours of his abdomen. I watched with satisfaction, then asked lazily, "What is your name?" The young performer's eyes sparkled, and he smiled, revealing a small fong. "Your Highness, I am Xinglian." I reached out and hooked his chin with my finger. "Would you be willing to become my male favorite?" Yin, Xiao Yan exclaimed in shock, as if only now noticing his presence. I glanced at him. "The regent and I are no longer husband and wife. This matter is none of your concern." No sooner had the words left my mouth than Xinglian knelt, his voice clear and resolute. "This servant is willing to serve Her Highness the Princess." I covered my mouth with my fan. "Then come attend to me tonight." That night, Xinglian never came. Xiao Yan had intercepted him, staring at the man who shouldn't have been in my chambers. I laughed bitterly. Does the regent prince's power extend even to my private affairs? Xiao Yan's face darkened. Yin, your health is fragile. Even if you're trying to spite me, you shouldn't joke about such things. I idly twirled my fingers. So what if my health is fragile? It doesn't require any effort from me anyway. Xiao Yan's expression turned deeply wounded. Yin, I truly regret my mistakes. I shouldn't have treated you that way back then. Shouldn't have hurt you. I'll make amends for every wrong. I'll prove it to you. Can't you give me another chance? No sooner had he finished speaking than my door swung open. I sighed. Tomorrow, I must find someone to replace this door. How can anyone just walk into the chambers of the esteemed princess? Bai Yunxiao stood pale as a ghost in the doorway, staring at Xiao Yan in disbelief. Yan Gu, is this why you suddenly grew cold toward me? You and the princess. Xiao Yan shot her a cold glance. Yin has always been the only one in my heart. With you, it was nothing but a charade. Bai Yunxiao shattered. How could you do this to me? We're already husband and wife. Xiao Yan scoffed. We never even registered the marriage. What kind of husband and wife are we? Just because some commoners called you madam at a makeshift wedding in the wilderness. You actually thought you were worthy of me? Bai Yunxiao froze in place, trembling all over. She murmured, "No, it's not like that. You promised to treat me well. Promised you wouldn't betray me." Xiao Yan turned away impatiently, refusing to look at her. "If you want to cry, do it outside. Don't disturb Bai Yin's rest." Bai Yunxiao instantly fell silent, tears streaming down her face. She slowly turned to look at me, murmuring as if possessed. "If the eldest princess were gone, would you treat me well again?" Before I could react, Bai Yunxiao, clutching something unseen, lunged toward me. I hadn't even had time to dodge when a figure flashed before me like a ghost. Xing Lian had entered the hall unnoticed, embracing Bai Yunxiao. Bright red blood spilled from Bai Yunxiao's chest. Her eyes widened, staring toward Xiaoyan before she slowly collapsed. I steadied myself and looked at Xiaoyan. He didn't spare her a single glance. With only a weary dismissive wave, he ordered someone to drag the body away. Then he turned to comfort me. "Aine, are you all right?" Had I known she was such a venomous creature, I would never have associated with her. "It's all my fault, I've caused you so much suffering." Even knowing his true nature, I still felt a wave of dread wash over me. Bai Yunxiao had been by his side for 5 years, how could he be so cold? I instinctively pulled my cloak tighter around me. Xing Lian hurriedly asked with concern, "Your Highness, are you all right? How did you end up here?" Xing Lian looked aggrieved. "You said I could accompany you tonight." I waited and waited but received no summons. So I thought I'd come see for myself. Who knew I'd arrive just as that madwoman tried to assassinate you? How dare she? I didn't have time to think, I threw myself in front of her. Who knew she was so fragile? One stab and she was dead. Xiaoyan's face darkened. "You're not needed here. Leave." I immediately grew displeased. "Xing Lian is my attendant. You have no right to command her." Xiaoyan glared angrily at Xing Lian, signaling for him to leave. But Xing Lian kept staring at me, completely missing Xiaoyan's hint. Rubbing my temples in frustration, I dismissed Xing Lian and said to Xiaoyan, "Forget it. Have a cup of tea and then go back." For some time now, Xiaoyan had been making overtures toward me. My only response was to pour him a cup of tea each time he came. Just 1 cup, no more, no less. Watching Xiaoyan drink the tea once more, I suddenly remarked, "That's the 49th cup." Perhaps because I'd spoken to him first. Xiaoyan seemed slightly better humored. He turned, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Is Aine counting the days since I came here? There's no need for that. If you're willing, I'll come see you every day." I shook my head with a smile. "No. Of course it must be counted. This is the 49th cup, just right." Xiaoyan didn't understand. Just as he was about to ask what I meant, his expression suddenly changed. He realized he couldn't move or speak. I walked toward him, cloak in hand, and spoke slowly. "My imperial brother once seized everything from my estate to please you, leaving only the bracelet you gave me and the cloak father bestowed upon me at our wedding. He dared not touch the bracelet, for it was your gift. But why did he spare the cloak? Do you know?" Xiaoyan stared at me intently, unfazed. I continued, "Because I left it behind by threatening my own life. This cloak is my very soul. After my failed suicide attempt, Father and I spoke through the night. He said his only regret was failing to see the wolf in sheep's clothing beside me. Now he sees it clearly. Yet as emperor, he remains powerless. Should he defy Xiaoyan's will, the traitor would immediately turn his forces southward, marching upon the capital. The result would be a sea of corpses. Thus, though he knew my grievance, my father had no choice but to arrange my marriage to Xiaoyan. To compensate me, he presented a cloak woven from fire fox fur. Fire foxes are rare, and this cloak is the only one of its kind in the world. But its greatest value lies in the secret hidden within it. Embroidered into the hidden pattern on the cloak's inner lining is a life-swapping sorcery. If Xiaoyan drinks 49 cups of tea laced with my blood, all my ailments will transfer to him. As a dying woman, Xiaoyan offered no resistance. Success came effortlessly. His complexion visibly turned ashen, while within me, a surging power awakened. Watching his eyes filled with resentment, I chuckled softly. "Go apologize to Bai Yunxiao in the underworld. Of course. It's best she never forgives you." Xiaoyan died that very night, while my body miraculously recovered. After my complete recovery, The first thing I did was enter the palace to find my dear imperial brother. He was blindfolded, playing games with a group of palace maids. A grand chamberlain stood nearby, reporting urgent military matters requiring His Majesty's decision. My brother waved him away impatiently. Send it to the regent. With him around, why should I bother with such trivialities? As he spoke, he tugged at a palace maid's skirt. She giggled and ran away, and he chased after her. I dismissed everyone. My brother, unaware, continued searching for his beauties. When he finally realized only his own voice echoed in the chamber and reached to pull down the silk blindfold before him, my hand touched his neck. Having been apart so long, my brother likely no longer recognized my voice. So when I spoke, he impulsively grasped my hand. I whispered softly, "Your Majesty, do you recall when our father passed the throne to you? He said his greatest regret in life was that I, his daughter, was frail and ill-fated to die young. Had I inherited the throne instead, our Lee dynasty would have endured for many more years." As my brother realized what I was implying and his face finally twisted with terror, I had already snapped his neck. After divorcing Xiao Yan, I rarely left the estate. I tossed and turned, endlessly pondering where I had gone wrong, how my life had descended to this. Finally, I understood. My mistake was not fighting for power. Had I held power, Xiao Yan would never have degraded me, nor would Father Emperor have wronged me. Had I held power, I could have ended Xiao Yan's life the moment I learned of his betrayal, instead of wasting my life in endless entanglement with him. Thankfully, my awakening came not too late. Stepping out of the palace gates, the sun hung high in the sky. Bright sunlight bathed my body. I closed my eyes, quietly savoring this moment. I knew I had waited for my rebirth. The end.